we're back here at Radio Free DC, the G. Gordon Liddy Show, and as promised, we are going directly to the telephones. And first up, from Fairfax, Virginia, which means she's probably right outside the window here, it is Kathy. Kathy, you're on the G. Gordon Liddy Show.
Hi, Mr. Liddy.
Hi, Kathy.
How are you?
I'm virile, vigorous, and potent.
Of course. I really enjoy listening to your show, and I pretty much agree with you on all issues, except I've heard over the last few days you talking about how your Catholic raising and schooling has kind of ruined did ruin your sex life.
It took me...
Can you
I would
explain
say,
that?
Yes, I'll explain just what I mean. It took me until I was around 40, I think, to have a normal, healthy view of human sexuality. And, when I went through Catholic schools, and I went through Catholic schools considerably before John Pop did, but John says that he had a similar result. Maybe they only did this to the boys, but...
Well, because I went to Catholic school.
Well, when I went to Catholic school, Kathy, and you can tell me, where the differences are. There was such an emphasis on the difference between the sexes, and I'm talking now about all the way down to kindergarten, first grade, all in there. First of all, we were not permitted to go through the same entrance that a girl went through. They had big brick entrances, archways, and over one said boys, and over the other said girls. Once inside, in the building, boys always were in one side of the building, girls were in the other side of the building. You were in the same class, but there was a long aisle, and you had the boys on one side and the girls on the other. When it came time for recess, they had the boys' playground, which was on one side of the building, and the girls, you'd have to go climb over the roof to get to a girl. I mean, that was the way it was. They would then tell us that we were really not responsible. These are the nuns, that we were really not responsible for our sexual proclivities and actions because we were boys. The girl was always in charge because the difference in their physiology and all the rest of it and their makeup, and that the girls had to understand that they were a frequent occasion of sin for the boys if they would do such awful things as wear patent leather shoes. The reason girls were...
You could look up their skirt.
We could look right up their skirt. And let me tell you something, it doesn't work. I tell you, every time I'd see a girl wearing patent leather shoes, I'd run right over there. And, you can't see a damn thing.
Right.
Doesn't work. But the whole idea was that it was the girls were in control, the boys were just savage beasts, and there was nothing to be done with them. But that the whole business was very bad. Human concupiscence. The only reason for marriage. There were two reasons.
Children.
Well, no, there were two reasons. One was, of course, so that there would be more human beings, and you'd have children. But the other was as an outlet for what they called human concupiscence. The sex was bad, dirty, and what have you. It was allowable as a motivator to undertake the considerably arduous task of bearing and raising children, which I understand, because I've had so many children. But that's, I just happen to think that is a really screwed up view of human sexuality. And I talked to John. John just graduated from high school or something. When did you get out of school, John?
I graduated from high school in 1979.
Okay.
Okay, I graduated from high school in 1984.
Okay, and John went to a Catholic college, and I went to a Catholic college, too. And they were still into concupiscence when I went to the Catholic college. And when we would go on, they always wanted you to end up with a good Catholic girl. And so I went to Fordham, and of course there were no women in those days at Fordham. And so what they would do, they would load us onto buses. It was, I suppose, so that we could have some release of human concupiscence or something, and they would take us over to Convent Station, let us say, where they had St. Elizabeth, some girls' school, all girls, and as we would walk in the door, there would be a nun in full habit, standing right in the middle,
Yeah.
and she would be sizing us up, literally size, and then she would give a gesture, and down would come a female student of that school of the appropriate size. She might look like a rhino, but she would be the correct size in terms of height. Never mind sideways, I'm talking up and down, vertically.
Right.
And then we would be formally introduced. We would be told that we were to, in the course of dancing, not come any closer than 18 inches.
Yeah.
And off we would go to have a hell of a good time.
Well,
And that's Catholic sex as I experienced it. And I was 40 years old, you know, before...
yeah, like what happened at 40?
Well, we had... I'll tell you what happened. We had 5 children at one time, Kathy, who were all under 5 years old. And, you know, finally I just said, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You know, wait a minute. This is nuts. And I started to reevaluate the whole thing. And I made a conscientious effort to straighten myself out. Now, my wife was not that screwed up because she had gone to public school. She only went to Catholic college.
Okay.
And so she was able to resist, you know, a lot of the nonsense there. But still, she was a good Catholic girl, and she dutifully had her 5 children in under 5 years. I don't know whether it was humanly, physically possible to have children in more rapid succession than we did. And when I say I am virile, vigorous, and potent, Kathy, I am not kidding. If I walk past the statue of Joan of Arc in Paris, bingo, she's pregnant.
Well, can I ask you something else?
Sure.
You talk about being with other women. Now, is this true?
Yes.
Well, I mean, how does that size up with your Catholic beliefs?
It does not in any way measure up to the Catholic expectations, norms, standards of behavior or anything else, except one, and that is that we are all sinners. I certainly am, and my weakness is women, and boy, am I into concupiscence, is all I can tell you. That I never did get that part straightened out.
So you're making up for all your 40 years.
Yeah, I mean, all my teenage, my college age years, and all that kind of stuff, when I missed out on life.
Well, I appreciate you talking to me. Can I ask one other question?
Sure.
My son is 9 years old, and he's in Fairfax County Public Schools. And usually in 5th grade is when they start with the real sex education, and a lot of it is Planned Parenthood based. What do you think, I mean, as far as what you've learned in a Catholic school?
Well, what I've learned in Catholic school is that the Roman Catholic doctrine is that so-called artificial contraception is immoral.
Right.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Nothing is being destroyed.
I'm on the wall with that one. I'm not sure.
Well, here's the thing. I absolutely, whether I was a Catholic or not, I would not believe in abortion because it's very clear to me.
I agree with you.
I've seen those little babies inside their mommy's tummy, you know, with the sonograms and things like that.
Right.
And you know, I am not a fool, and I know what my senses see and what my mind tells me.
Right.
And I could not conceivably bring myself to do a thing like that, to destroy that innocent life. Now, contraception, however, simply means that you do not generate a child. There's nothing that's being destroyed, in other words, and it is just that for the sake of the health of the mother or for your ability to properly deal with the situation financially or something like that, you postpone the delightful fruit of your union.
Right, and also, you know, a picture of natural family planning is like a picture of a family of 6 people. It doesn't work.
Well, Kathy, we were practicing rhythm. and it got us 5 kids under 5.
Right.
I mean, maybe it works for the Pope, but it sure never worked for me.
Well, it doesn't work for my brother and sister-in-law either. They've got 4 kids under the age of 6, so...
And I will say this, and you might give this some thing, if you still have some qualms of conscience about it, if you shop around in the confessional, do what Mrs. Liddy did. She shopped around in the confessional.
Yeah.
She found a kindly old Jesuit who said, for heaven's sake, go ahead.
Yeah.
Like, just forget it.
Yeah.
And you said, you're a good woman, and you're doing the right thing, and stop worrying about it.
Right.
And that would be my advice to you. You go right ahead with the contraception.
Well, mine is abstinence. I have...
Oh boy, are you looking for trouble? You're going to end up. You're going to end up with a husband.
Other days I don't really care.
But I don't mean trouble in terms of what I'm saying is you're going to end up possibly with a husband like me.
I'll kick him out of the house.
Well, that's all right. I mean, there's always that option, and he always has that problem. But
well, I guess if he could provide me with lots of money, I could probably overlook a few things.
Well, that's true. You'd be surprised that generally speaking, I mean, I'm speaking about now taking the entire range of male-female relationships.
Mm-hmm.
The attitude toward sex and homemaking and marriage and what have you of men and women differ because their roles are essentially different.
Right.
A woman, a man generates semen, he'd be 90-some-odd years old. Every day he has a fresh supply of brand new spermatozoa.
Uh-huh.
A woman is issued X number of M1A1 mod 0X eggs by God, when she is born, and that's it. And instinctively she knows that.
Mm-hmm.
And she also knows that that the nurturing and the childbearing and everything are going to be essentially hers, that it is her natural inclination
right.
to look for, first of all, a man who there is a good chance that he will stay there and help her
right.
to raise those children. He's not going to be off in 18 months. That's thing number one. 2, that he is good genetic material. She has good genetic material, and she doesn't want to marry a nitwit.
Right. In reading your book, I read Will. I was surprised the way you talked about your wife's genetic makeup. And
well, you ought to read Colonel Lindbergh. The same thing. Is why he married Anne Morrow. Same thing. That's where I got the idea.
Right.
But then also, the consideration of a woman is, I'm going to have good, high-quality children here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to downgrade my genetic potential.
Right.
The man's going to be here to help raise those children. And now, what are the conditions in which the prospective children that I may bear are going to be raised? Will there be sufficient funds to send them to a good school, to have a good home, and so on and so forth?
Right.
And women, a lot of times, they'll say, well, he doesn't thrill me, and this, that, and the other thing, but he's a good man. He's a good man. And they'll settle. They'll settle. Women tend to settle. Men, if they perceive themselves as being less than attractive for one reason or anything like that, they will settle. If they perceive themselves to be really something,
right.
they don't want to settle.
Exactly.
Okay.
I say more men don't perceive themselves as nothing. I mean, all men think they're special in one way or another.
Mm-hmm. Well, not all, but you'd be surprised. There are men who do not have high self-esteem for one reason or another. They may have had problems in their childhood or something of that sort.
Yeah.
And oftentimes this is not warranted. They actually are, quite fine, but they don't perceive it that way, and so they don't act that way.
Right.
But this is the general way. Now, the way that nature sort of programs us is for you to be conservative about your eggs and what's going to happen and everything else, and especially for dominant alpha males. the biggest, brightest, and what have you. The natural inclination, the sociobiological inclination, and of course we're taught as Catholics what you have to do is rein in all of these inclinations.
Right.
But that inclination is to spread that semen as far apart as possible and to generate as many children as one can. Now, that might have been all well and good when we were Upper Paleolithic hunter-gatherers. In today's society, that's a real problem unless you have one hell of an income.
Exactly.
The reason being that you can't just generate a child and then figure, well, the tribe will take care of it. There's plenty of fruits and nuts, and then they'll throw them a leg every now when they kill something.
Right.
You are going to have to be responsible for. I mean, we're talking about responsible individuals now. You generate a child, you have a huge obligation, and you have it. You also, I mean, a good man, a real true man, has an enormous interest in that child. Wants to see that child all the time. Wants to. He looks at the homework. Says, wait a minute. Cares about what school goes to.
Yeah.
Cares about the attitude. Cares about the way the child uses the English language. I mean, the men are tremendously focused on their children once they have them, and that is correct, whether it's by this mother or by that mother.
Right. Well, Mr. Liddy, I really appreciate you spending so much time on the phone with me.
Well, what you had to say and what you had to discuss is very, very important.
Well,
and
I guess I just really, I mean, I agree with you pretty much in everything, but when you're talking about how the Catholic schools, ruined you, and
well,
my
they didn't ruin me. They didn't ruin me academically. I was very fortunate in that I ended up, with a superb education all the way up to the postdoctoral level.
Right.
And that was back in the days before the Catholic Church went all Clintonista, Clandonista, Sandinista, and all that kind of nonsense. Back then, they weren't running around talking about social justice. They understood that what Aristotle meant when he talked about commutative justice versus distributive justice. We understood that. We weren't running around just talking about social justice and meaning it that we give them the poor our old clothes or something. I really got a superb education from the days, for example, when the Jesuits were not trying to change the government in South America. They were trying to do what they were founded to do, which was educate people.
Right.
And I also had the German Benedictines during the Second World War, who were, really marvelous, and of course were very strict disciplinarians.
Right.
So I got a lot out of Catholic education. My only complaint is in the area of human sexuality.
Right.
And I still think that the doctrine is wrong when it comes to contraception. I don't have any problem with the Pope's new position, position newly stated on euthanasia and abortion.
Right.
No problem at all with that. Okay, I have to go for commercial messages.
Thank you again.
But thank you for listening. Thank you for calling.
Sure.
And believe me, the reason I spent so much time with you is that what you had to talk about was something very, very important.
Well, good.
God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Liddy.
Thank you. Say a prayer for me. I need it.
Okay, I will.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
This is the G. Gordon Liddy Show.
This is G. All right. Let's go to the telephones. And first up, from Alexandria, Virginia, it's Steve. Steve, you're on the G. Gordon Liddy Show.
Hi, Gordon.
Hi, Steve.
Gordon, I've got a quandary or a problem to talk to you about.
Sure.
You've talked about self-defense quite often, and generally, when you are referring to it, it's one attacker against one decent citizen, right?
Usually it is.
Well, I had the bad experience several months ago of traveling to Philadelphia on the weekend and using their subway system. And not being familiar with the city, but I used it. Coming back on the subway, two individuals, I won't get into their background, but let's just say they were two criminal types, mugged me in the subway system.
What? I mean, now, can you give us the details? Were they armed? What was the story?
Well, I was just minding my own business. There are not a lot of folks using the subway on the weekend. And I did report to the police later, and they said, well, tough luck. I didn't see any signs up saying beware of muggers, by the way.
Yeah.
I was just returning, changing trains right there to go back toward the train station. And these guys were hiding in the shadows.
This was on the train platform, the station
Yes,
platform?
on the platform. They were hiding. In other words, I unwarily walked into a trap.
Okay.
They jumped me. They were about linebacker size. They weren't armed as far as I know. I didn't see any weapons.
Okay.
Neither was I, for that matter.
Yeah, it's called a strong arm robbery.
Okay. And they were on top of me, and they both were good size. I'd say football linebacker size each. They had me down while I was carrying a briefcase. They hit me in the face with my own briefcase after taking it. And I'm on the pavement. And, I'm just one, I was completely at their mercy. Luckily, they just robbed me of whatever cash I had in my pocket. And then they fled. I got up, dusted myself off, thankful I'm still alive. I reported it to the police, and they just said, well, that's Philadelphia.
Yeah. Well, see, that's why we have concealed carry laws that are sweeping the nation, because that's what the police will tell you. Well, that's Philadelphia, that's Chicago, that's New York, that's, your bad luck, because they cannot protect and serve. And most of them don't pretend to be able to now. Now, this is not a failure of theirs. There isn't even a fraction of the number of police officers to be able to do a thing like that. You've got to take care of yourself. And what you need to do, of course, as you now know, and in hindsight, is you need, first of all, to always be alert to your surroundings.
Good point.
Right. I mean, you need to know, you need to be scanning all the time, looking people in the eye, looking for the shadows, staying away from pillars like that where somebody might be the other side, and you see somebody. Now, that doesn't mean that they cannot attempt to mug you, but if you avoid a situation like that, then you see them coming. You see them coming, and you produce your gun.
And if I had one, I would have used it.
Of course, absolutely, and just waste them and go. Just leave them there. That's all.
Well,
the other things now, if you're a lot depends on your training. What skills you have acquired. There's a knife that can be very good, and it has the benefit. I frequently use a knife,
okay.
And the reason is I'm skilled with a knife fighting. And it's quiet. It doesn't go bang. It doesn't attract a lot of attention. And the guy's just slumped over there, bleeding his life out. And most people would pass him over thinking he's just another drunk, except the blood pool gets to be pretty rough. By that time, you're gone. Let's see. Last, of course, if you have certain martial arts training. There's a man named Gary Gallagher, who is a very good friend of mine. A Navy Cross winner in Vietnam with the United States SEALs. I'd say he's about 5'10", and he's got built like a bull. These guys could well have been bigger than he was, but just to give you an idea, he's now retired. He's in his mid-50s. He returned a car to one of those satellite parking lots, where you pick up your car.
Right.
By a major city airport. And it was in the evening and what have you, and three big guys approached him and said, "Give us the money." And he was tired, it'd been a long day, and he said to these guys, "Guys, it's late. I've worked hard all day. I am tired, and you're pissing me off. So just go away." And they insisted. They said, "Give us the money, So, make a long story short, in a matter of seconds, he broke their legs and their arms.
Good.
Tore their shoulder joints out and everything, and just left them in a pile. Police came, and they looked at this just utter destruction. And the police had in tow a woman that these guys had just mugged a short time before. And she said, "Yeah, that's the guys." And, they were in near death. He just tore them to pieces.
Well, Gordon, taking your point of if you were armed with a pistol, let's say, or a revolver, and you wasted these two characters, should you report to the police or just keep walking?
No, I would keep walking. Look, the paperwork is horrendous.
Yes.
You keep going.
And they'll make you look like the victim.
Absolutely. Make sure they're dead, and then just keep on going. Nobody's going to follow you. You know, all they know is bam, bam. Always a guy with a gun. Whoop, you're gone, right? And they don't want to know anything about it, and just leave. Now, what you want to do, it depends on whether you've got a revolver or a semi-automatic pistol.
Well, I choose a revolver.
Okay.
You recommend that in your
I
life.
recommend a revolver, absolutely. Now, you don't want them to be able to take the bullets out of there and be able to identify this revolver. I mean, who knows what can happen, later on, something of that sort. Take a rat tail file, and you run it up and down inside that tube.
Okay.
Just trash it. It will never, produce an ident again. And then what you want to do is do the same thing to your firing pin. Just file it. Because it also will leave an indentation mark on the primer. You get rid of that, and then junk the gun. Get another gun. You can always get another gun. I mean, it's all it is a tool. And if you happen to have a semi-automatic pistol, you need to do a little bit more. You got to get rid of the extractor because it will make a mark on the cartridge, and also you got to get rid of I call it like the base plate, the part that comes forward, the bolt face. Get rid of the bolt face. That's got to be all filed out. Because
I find it's a terrible commentary in this country that this sort of thing goes on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
And presidents like the sorry one we have right now just mindlessly goes on his little way.
Well, someone has observed that an armed population makes for a very courteous population.
Yes, I guess it would.
And a much safer population. If these two guys, if there was a concealed carry law in those areas where you were, if these two guys, had any idea at all that you might be carrying, and if you were careful and what have you like that, they wouldn't approach you. And if they were starting to approach, you just pull the piece. They're gone. I mean, you don't, when they turn and run, let them turn and run. Don't go shoot them in the back or something like that. Now, if they keep coming, pop them. And the best way is, okay, let's see, you've got 6 rounds there.
Right.
Okay, each one of them, 2 in the chest, 1 in the head. That is the classic SEAL kill. It's up, boom, up, boom. 2 in the chest. If they're still in front of your sights, wham, right through the brain. That's how you do it.
Sounds very effective.
It really is. Trust me, it works.
Gordon, thank you for your advice. The show is wonderful, and I wish there were more shows like yours on the radio.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. There's nothing like talking to somebody who's been there, I mean, this information I give out does not come from reading mystery stories. Okay?
Thank you.
I write them. I don't read them. All right. Thanks very much. God bless you, sir. And crass commercial messages. We'll be right back.
This is the G. Gordon Liddy Show.
Let's go to the telephones. And first up, from Herndon, Virginia, is Christina. Christina, you're on the G. Gordon Liddy Show.
Hello, Mr. Liddy.
Hi, Christina.
I'm afraid I disagree with the advice
That's
you
fair.
gave the gentleman who was mugged in Philadelphia.
All right.
You told him to cover up the evidence that he had participated in an act of self-defense.
Yeah, just keep on going. Paperwork is horrendous when you kill somebody.
Well, I'm afraid I don't think you've really thought that out. First of all, would that be illegal?
No, if you have killed in self-defense, then you've done a legal act. Now, you...
covering up.
What's that? No, you're not covering up. You just keep it on going. Just leave them there. I didn't say to take the bodies out and weight them down and throw them in the river or anything of that sort. I said just keep on going.
No, but you did tell him to file his gun so
sure.
it can't be identification.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that illegal?
No, I mean, if I have a gun and I choose to ruin it, it's my gun.
What would be the purpose in that?
The purpose in that would be to keep it from being identified.
And what would be the purpose in keeping it from being identified?
So that in case there was some witness who said, hey, there was this funny-looking bald-headed guy with a mustache, and I think he did it, and so on and so forth, and that's all they got to go unless and until they find my weapon and identify it, and then I've got a big headache. I mean, eventually I'm going to win, but we're going to have to go through O.J. Simpson again. Why go to all of that? Why go to all that trouble?
Would you say that would be a vigilante act?
No, not if you're protecting yourself. I'll tell you what would be a vigilante act. You don't like muggers because once you got mugged, and you know that they mug people on the Philadelphia subway system, so you take a gun and you hang out till you find somebody who looks like a mugger or acts like a mugger, and then you whack them. That's a vigilantism. But protecting yourself is not.
Mr. Liddy, how will we change the fact that people should be allowed to protect themselves? By hiding the fact that we protect ourselves?
No. You obviously somebody's protected himself. He just hasn't hung around for the paperwork.
See,
you make it. I tell you what, if you make it the way it used to be, they say, okay, look at this thing, on your way. But not if you have to go through O.J. Simpson. I mean, think of the expense of it and everything else. Now, if you have to, you have to. But I'd rather avoid it.
Well,
I don't have time for that nonsense unless I absolutely have to do it.
I'm a conservative, and I'm pro-life. And I think that what you're talking about could be compared to the fellow who, oh my gosh, we're cut off, but the fellow who killed the abortion doctor trying to protect the fetus or the baby that was just going to be...
No way.
Westwood One Radio Networks.
And let's see, this fax just in. G-Man, you have spoken of carrying a knife. I am a custom knife maker and would like to know what kind of knife you carry. Blade length, width, and thickness, single or double edge. Is bigger always better? Where is your main target in a confrontation? Please read in the first 3 hours. Cheap station. Just remember, a knife is always loaded. This is from T.W. Churchman from Amarillo, Texas. All right. By the way, that last fax was from Harold Pearson of Tucson. Well, sir, the knife I usually carry has about a 3.5-inch blade. It is spring-loaded, folding knife. It has a clip point. It has serrations down near the hilt. It has and the drop point has a false edge up there, so that for that section only it is double-edged. The handle is titanium, and the blade is steel. Now, that's just what I carry just for every day. If I knew I was going to go on some sort of piece of work where I would need a knife, say, to take out a guard or a sentry or something of that sort, then I would have a double-edged stiletto type blade, something like one of the big Guardian knives, and where I would place it would be if you take your hand and put it to the side, either side of your neck, you'll find that there's a hollow there near the collarbone. And what you do, you just slide the blade right down in there, and then rock it once backward. In other words, you push the handle forward. That will rock the blade back toward you, and you slice the heart, and pull it sharply toward you. The blade will go the other way, and it will sever the spine. So it's just in, forward, backward, and you've sliced the heart in half, and you have severed the spine. If you have a confrontation with an individual, and he's got a knife or something of that sort, well, then the first thing I go for is to make a cut directly above, right across the forehead, and this then blinds your opponent in his own blood flow, after which the fighting is much easier for you. I'm careful. A lot of times when the person will expose his wrist, I'll try to cut the artery in the wrist. I'll try to cut the artery in the groin, or I'll try to cut the carotid arteries. These are all lethal. If you can get the person in the right hold, of course, a penetrating blow into the kidney area, that's often quite lethal. And then another one is the blade held in such a way that it will slide in between the ribs on the heart side. That takes a fair amount of skill. It's not as easy to kill somebody with a knife as people would suppose. You need to know, where you're going with it. So the answer to your question is, sir, I have, I don't know, probably about 40 different knives, and I've given you the answers to what I usually carry. But on a given day, I may have a different knife, depending upon what I think might be the problem that day. But you never go into a place like Washington, D.C. or New York or anything like that unarmed. That's just crazy. You're asking for trouble, because anybody who confronts me is really asking for trouble. The nice thing, as you say, about a knife is it's always loaded, and it doesn't go bang. It's quiet. All right. Okay, let's move along now to Lake Charles, Louisiana, and speak to Carol. Carol, you're on the G. Gordon Liddy Show.
Hi, how are you?
I'm virile, vigorous, and potent.
As expected. I have a question for you.
All right.
It was on yesterday's show, during yesterday's show. You mentioned a phrase that really got my attention because when I was a first-year college student, someone called me this. Let me give you a little background. I'm adopted. I don't, and my parents do not have any idea about the nationality of either of my natural parents. So when you said Jajit yesterday...
Jinjit.
Say that again.
Okay. Jinjit.
What does that mean?
Well, it's a Hebrew idiomatic expression which is based on the root word ginger, and it is descriptive of red-headed women, beautiful red-headed women.
I see.
But that's what it means, a jinjit. I was just astonished to be over there in Israel and see these fair-skinned, bright red-headed women who were just stunners. And
oh, that makes me feel wonderful. I thought for years that maybe he was calling me a terrible name.
Oh, no. That's a big compliment.
Oh.
But correctly used, it refers to the color of your hair. Are you red-headed?
Yes.
Aha. See, he was using it correctly.
That's what it was.
Yes, indeed. Well, that is quite a compliment. Boy.
Can you spell it?
No, I can't. But perhaps there may be an Israeli listening or someone who has been in Israel long enough to be able to spell it in English letters. The other thing that you find over there is everything is in Hebrew. And believe it or not, I started looking at signs right to left. You pick that up pretty quickly. But I do not either read nor do I speak Hebrew.
This is so fascinating. You've just solved a big mystery for me.
Well, that's what we're here to do, Carol. That is the rationale, the raison d'etre of this entire program.
Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Wow, Carol has got to be a gorgeous redhead. Whew. Down in Lake Charles, Louisiana, too. John, get me a speaking engagement down there right away. Okay.
This is the G. Gordon Liddy Show.
The tycoon did not consult the paper in his hand. He seemed impossibly to have memorized the text that had been put into final form only an hour or so earlier. Second, the tycoon was speaking with unusual slowness. He seemed to be firing each word across the battlefield. A rifle salute to the dead. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation, so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. Seated just to the right of Lincoln, Seward began actually to listen. He had heard so many thousands of speeches in his life, and he had himself given so many thousands, that he could seldom actually listen to any speech, including his own. He, too, noted Lincoln's unusual deliberateness. It was as if the president was now trying to justify to the nation and to history and, thought Seward, to God what he had done. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We are met to dedicate a portion of it as the final resting place of those who have given their lives that that nation might live. Seward nodded inadvertently. Yes, that was the issue, the only issue, the preservation of this unique nation of states. Meanwhile, the photographer was trying to get the president in camera frame. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. Lincoln was now staring out over the heads of the crowd to a hill on which a row of wooden crosses had been newly set. For an instant the hand that held the speech had dropped to his side. Then he recalled himself and glanced at the text. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our power to add or to detract. Lincoln paused. There was a patter of applause, and then, to Seward's amazement, a shushing sound. The audience did not want to break into the music until it was done. Seward studied the president with new, if entirely technical, interest. How had he accomplished this bit of magic with his singularly unmellifluous voice and harsh Midwestern accent? Lincoln was now staring off again, dreamily, this time at the sky. The photographer was under his hood, ready to take the picture. The world will very little note, nor long remember, what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. The hand with the text again fell to his side. Hay knew that the tycoon's eyes had turned inward. He was reading now from that marble tablet in his head, and he was reading a text written in nothing less than blood. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work that they have thus far so nobly carried on. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they here gave. Hay was aware that the trumpeted voice had choked, and the gray eyes were suddenly aswim with uncharacteristic tears. But the tycoon quickly recovered himself. The last full measure of devotion that we here highly resolve. The voice was now that of a cavalry bugle calling for a charge. That these dead shall not have died in vain, that the nation shall, He paused a moment, then said, "Under God." Seward nodded. His advice had been taken. Nico whispered to Hay, he just added that, it's not in the text, "Have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth."